Here's the problem right now that I see. We're out of time. When we were kids, we had a rite of passage. And part of that rite of passage was to experiment with drugs and alcohol. Fentanyl wasn't really a thing. And today, it's killing everybody.
I'm Flindt Andersen, founder of PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need. I've been in recovery since 2001, and there isn't much I don't know about recovery. And my mission is to constantly tell the truth about addiction, to make the realities of addiction, recovery, and drug culture known, and to drive awareness and advocate change that ultimately saves lives.
And I'm Jason LaChance, a certified recovery coach with a passion for speaking with others and sharing their knowledge to help others seek recovery and maintain long-term sobriety. And this is the Don't Hide the Scars podcast, presented by PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need. We're not that far from each other, Richard. We're in Fresno. I think we're coming to visit there, pal. Richard Taite, thanks for joining us on Don't Hide the Scars.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.
I want to jump in, of course, Richard, with Carrara Treatment, Wellness, and Spa, and you used to be the owner, I forget how long ago it was, with Cliffside, Malibu. But Flindt will talk here a lot about, we need treatment reform. You're in it. You know how it is. You're dealing with insurances and so on. And, Flindt, you say it better than I, but really that there's two types of treatment.
Yeah, I look, Richard, I think there's obviously two types. There's those that have a PPO insurance, and I'll make this simple. Those that have PPO insurance and or the cash to be able to afford a treatment facility. Then there's those that have Medi-Cal insurance, governmental aid insurance, whatever that is, that and don't have the cash to afford a decent treatment center. As you know, again, long-term sobriety here. I've been sober now 24 years, been to several of treatment centers a long time ago. But, most of these treatment centers, we can't keep people long enough, I think, to even begin to give them the help that they need. Because I'm a firm believer in 90 days of detox and residential. I'm a firm believer in longer periods of time for outpatient services. But when you're dealing with county-run programs, when you're dealing with any kind of governmental aid programs like that, we just don't have the beds. I don't know. You just can't send a practicing addict into outpatient, in my opinion. To me, that does not work. I don't think I've ever seen it work properly. And I do think that we need treatment reform. I don't think that people understand addiction as much as they say they do. This is not an overnight thing. You're not going to change your behavior of 10, 15, 20 years in using and all the behavior that goes with it in a 30-day program. I'm sorry. To me, it just takes a lot longer. So I'd like to get your opinion on that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a tough one because, as you know, you've got the PPO insurance that you talked about. Let's break it up into cash and insurance.
Okay, good.
Cash is people can afford what they can afford. They go to the treatment center that they can afford. And the only way they don't stay for 90 days is if they take their will back, right? They always say, I'm doing great, right? You've heard that 1,000 times. I'm doing
times.
Great. Okay. Right. And my response to that is always, Yale Law School is great. Okay. You're in rehab. Okay. Come on, man. Get on board here. Let's get back to common sense.
Right.
And so that's the cash aspect of it. The PPO aspect of it is really tough. Now, let me just start this by saying, when I left Cliffside in 2018, there were 18,000 treatment centers in the United States. At the end of last year, there were 12,000. By the end of this year, there'll be 9,000 and change. Okay. Now, why is that happening? It's an excellent question. I'm glad you asked it. Mm-hmm. The reason that's happening is because insurance companies used to pay 67 cents on the dollar when I left, and now they're paying about 25 cents on the dollar. Well,
there it is.
If you're operating on a 25 to 30% margin, like most of us are, you're out of business.
Right.
Right. And the
Right.
only people that are going to survive are the people that are doing the in-network stuff, because then you have a negotiated price
Right.
and you can give them the treatment that you can afford to give them. Now, you're never going to get the top-notch treatment in an in-network facility or an out-of-network facility now that you get when you pay cash. That sucks. Okay. But, it's the same in every walk of life. There are good lawyers and bad lawyers. There are good doctors and bad doctors. Okay. And so you get what you pay for, and that's just the way the world works in our country. Okay. But, I'm sorry, what was the rest of your question? Because it was important and I've got a concussion, so I lost my train of thought.
It was, so do I a lot of the time. So
Right.
it was basically then about governmental aid insurance or Medi-Cal,
Excellent.
right? Okay. Yeah.
Excellent. So let's get into that. Okay. Those are three hots and a cot, punitive type places. You're looking at the Claire Foundation, I think, has gotten that going now. Sorry about the plane. What else? It's Tarzana Treatment Center.
Yeah. I know
Right.
Tarzana. Yeah.
It's a lot of those. I think I'm saying this right. The Prop 38 or Prop
Yep.
36 people. What
Yep.
is it
I
again?
think it's Prop 36.
Right. I think so too. And, so the only way that helps you is if you have a willingness going in, right? But that statement has killed more people than just about anyone.
Right.
You got to get
Right.
sober for yourself. You've got to be willing to do this for yourself. That's bullshit.
That's bullshit, Richard. Yes, it is.
Okay. You can gently move people along and align with them and gain their trust and then help them to have their best life.
Right.
Okay. So what we do with those calls is we have a business development person that just refers all those calls out, because I don't ever want anybody to feel like they're not important calling us. So we refer everybody. Now, some people don't want to, they're pissed off that they don't have insurance and they can't get $165,000 in treatment for free. Okay. I don't know how to even respond to that. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
I wish I was living in that world where I could donate all of it, but I think I've given away about $30 million in treatment.
Sure. I get that.
20 years. So yeah.
Yeah, no, I get that. One of the reasons why, again, we don't take Medi-Cals, you said it, they simply don't pay enough. They don't pay enough for any of us to function. When they're sending, basically $185 a day, and expecting, and then of course they're dragging their asses on the payments, and that 25% on the dollar is exactly what is going on right now. Do you know we have a policy out there, and I can't remember the name, but we built out this policy a year ago, and it's for about $262,000, and we still haven't been paid on it. I mean, it's nonsense. Insurance companies, and again, maybe not intentionally, I don't know, but they're killing the treatment industry. They are killing us. And then even if you start to look at a treatment center in, let's say, Colorado, as opposed to a treatment center here in California, my God, I mean, just look at what we're paying in taxes. Look what our food costs are. Look what everything is. I mean, it has doubled and tripled over the last 4 or 5 years. And I'll tell you what, it's starting to get to the point, okay, where and then people are going, oh, first of all, you guys are making millions of dollars off of this thing, and how can you charge so much money? And my first response is, do you know where you live? Do you understand the concept of what things cost today, and the salaries, and you know the story, the rest of it that goes with it.
It's even worse than that, though. If you make a mistake in billing an insurance company, you got to give the money back, and they can take up to 3 times the mistake. Okay, that's bad enough.
Right.
Okay, I mean, for a mistake.
Right.
if you make a mistake when you're taking government money, you're going to jail.
You bet.
You're going to jail. I mean, I wouldn't take government. I've got kids. I wouldn't take government money, okay, and then deal with some ass clown and who wants to assert their authority over me, okay,
Right.
because they don't like some rich guy,
Right.
okay. You know, no way.
I get it.
I mean, I had a sober living that cost me $400,000 a year to operate, but I was making money and I didn't give a shit. And if you can treat somebody for a couple $1,000 a month with sober living and outpatient, and you don't do it, you're a dick.
Right.
Okay. So I went ahead and I did it. Cut to this one guy, he was at my treatment center about 7 years ago, right? When I was still practicing back then. And we had him, it was like insurance was like paying 6 cents on the dollar. I'm not kidding. Blue Shield insurance. He was paying 6 cents on the dollar. We kept him anyway.
Right.
Didn't matter. Okay. We kept him there for 2 months in treatment. Then when his treatment was over, we put him in sober living.
Right.
And we gave him free outpatient. And he was there for 2 months. Right. And we begged him to stay longer. He cried poor. We're fine with it. We begged him to stay longer. He wouldn't stay. Walks around the corner, gets in his S-Class Mercedes, goes to his penthouse in the marina, okay, overlooking the water, okay, starts shooting heroin and drops dead.
Yeah.
This is 3 days after he left my facility.
Right.
Sober living, okay? I get sued for wrongful death.
Oh, yeah. There it
My
comes.
lawyer walks in to my office and I said to him, I said, do you mean to tell me that I can have people here for free and they leave even after we beg them to stay, that they're not willing, that they're not ready to leave? They lie about their financial situation. They go and they shoot heroin 2.5, 3 days later, and they drop dead, and I can be sued for wrongful death. And my lawyer goes, yeah. I said, close this thing down, please.
Right. Right.
Okay. That guy's mother and sister cost hundreds of people from getting treatment.
Help. Right. Right.
Okay. I wasn't going to put my ass out there like that. I'm not interested in that program.
Before we jump into a break, I do want to talk about real quick the Home of Hope, Granville Home of Hope. We've got those tickets on sale. People have already been buying them from us and the other organizations involved, the amazing 9 organizations, but want to tell people a little bit about that before we take a break.
You got it. Yeah. So again, Granville, we just appreciate they're doing this again this year. They didn't do it in 2023, but they're back, and we're thrilled. And it benefits 9 nonprofits here locally. You can buy a ticket for $100 to get a home. You can buy a bundle of tickets for $200, which you get 2 tickets for the home and 1 ticket to possibly win a Lexus for 2 years. It's really a great organization, Granville, and they help out our community tremendously. So give us a call and maybe you'll win a house out of the deal.
All the details are in our podcast description there, including our phone number, the website on Home of Hope, and we'll be right back. New Perceptions North, the premier drug and alcohol treatment and recovery center in Central California. A full continuum of medically supervised top quality care with programs for detox and patient residential treatment with dual diagnosis, intensive outpatient treatment, sober living support groups, and more. New Perceptions North provides adult men and women with the highest caliber of professional health care, treating each client with compassion and respect in a safe, comfortable environment to begin the process of recovery to proudly create and sustain a life without addiction. Call 559-978-1507 or visit newperceptionsnorth.com.
You know, I have a sober living and I have to take a really strong look at that thing now. All right. Because look, I didn't get into the sober living business to make a whole bunch of money. All right. I just didn't. If we could break even, if we could make a few extra bucks after the month was over, great. Okay. Because I got to tell you, we've had very good success at our sober living. I don't think we've even called the police once in 6 years. Okay. We've never had anybody die in our sober living facility. We've had other sober livings here in Fresno have them die. I'm not blaming the sober living facility. I'm just, the situation. But I'm looking at this thing, and now it's starting to cost me more every month than it is at the rent that we're getting from the guys. And by the way, our rent here is a hell of a lot different than it is in Southern California. It's nowhere near what they pay down there. But the headache that goes with it, right? And then, of course, you have people out there that make accusations about what's going on here and what's going on there. All right. And it's all bullshit. Okay. It's all bullshit because they have a tendency at times to kind of lump everybody together, in this thing. And I'll be honest with you. I've been around Fresno my whole life, but I've been in this longer than anybody else in this town. I started the pain organization in 2009. In 2008, we were working on it. And it's now getting to the point where the financial piece of this, if we can't figure out something, it's the people out there that are going to lose.
Right.
Right. And you said something a second ago about that gentleman that left, that went and shot Heron because he's doing great. Damn it. That is also so important on what you said, because when I'm dealing with parents, here's how this goes. And I'm going to say 90 to 95% of the parents do this. They walk in, their life is in chaos. Their kid is in massive amounts of trouble, physically, emotionally, via his or her addiction. They don't know what to do. They're at the end of their rope, yet they let this go on for 4 or 5 years prior to coming to us, right?
Right.
So they walk in, and I'm a hard ass in this. I am. Everybody knows it. I make no bones about it. And I say, look, there is no cure for addiction, but if you listen to what I'm saying, your kid has a shot at this. And I said, the reason why your kid has a shot at this is that I had a 23-year addiction, somehow got past that into now 24 years of sobriety. And I did everything your damn kid did, only better. So and at that point, the parents go, and by the way, I'll say you need to come to our family support meetings, because it's not like Al-Anon. It's not like any other program. We crosstalk, we throw it out there. We suggest, I tell them what your kid's capable of, not capable of, and so on and so forth. And at that point, that parent is going, I'm all in. We're all in. We're going to do whatever it takes.
Right.
And of course, I'm listening to that going, yeah, we'll see. Okay. Sure as the sun is going to start shining tomorrow morning, the minute that kid's on about the 30th day of treatment goes, or even sooner, hey, mom, dad, I'm feeling fantastic. I get to get out of here. Or, mom and dad, they really do a job here. I really need you to come and get me. And I'm giving the short version here. And the parent caves 90% of the time. And sure enough, that kid relapses within a couple. Now, that's not everybody, but it's a huge amount.
Right.
And right there it is.
Here's the problem right now that I see after coming back. We're out of time. When we were kids, we had a rite of passage.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that rite of passage was to experiment with drugs and alcohol.
Correct.
Well, you couple that with the fact that when we're kids, we're essentially brain damaged. Our frontal cortex isn't developed until you're about 23, 25, in that range.
Right.
It's one of the reasons why we feel undestructible as kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when I left Cliffside before I started Carrara, fentanyl wasn't really a thing.
Right.
It wasn't. And today, it's killing everybody.
Change the game.
it's changed because, you know, um, before when we were kids, you want to go buy a Percocet or an OxyContin or whatever it is. Okay, we did it.
Right.
Okay, we were getting what we bought.
Right.
Today, 70% of these pills are laced with fentanyl.
Correct.
And now you got carfentanil on the way.
Correct.
And now you got Trank coming to a suburb near you.
Correct.
Trust me, people are going to lose their shit.
Yep,
Okay. When kids are humped over like a hunchback and they've got open wounds where you can see the bone in their arm or leg, and you know, you shoot it there because it feels the best.
Right.
Okay. And it just keeps flesh eating until you lose a limb. Okay. Right. I mean,
right.
People are gonna, and you know what? It's not gonna matter because people get desensitized, and then that's the new normal, and it's not gonna happen to them. Okay, they're not gonna have conversations with their kids early and often. My kids to this day, I've had that conversation with them 15, 20 times, and they roll their eyes at me, and I stop the car.
Right.
And I just say, hey, you're all I've got. Because kids don't understand. They're hardwired to love their parents, right? We get that. But you don't know what love is until you have a child. You think you do, but you don't.
Right.
There is nothing more unnatural than burying your child.
Correct.
And we're out of time. Okay. So, you know, these parents, I used to tell parents back in the day, I'd say, hey, if you listen to me, you're getting your kid back. If you don't, you're not. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay. And I don't, you know, it's the homes, and this is what you're talking about, where the kids are the shot callers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Those kids, it never works out for them.
Right.
You cannot let your child be the shot caller in your house. You cannot be afraid. Right. And, you know, my son gets more straight talk than my daughter does. I'm not going to lie. Okay. Sure. Because I've been an 11-year-old boy. I've never been a 14-year-old girl. Right. Okay. So I let my ex do the laboring more on that. Right. Sure. Do the lion's share of that.
Makes sense.
Right. And so, you know, it's not fun for me to have a conversation with my daughter a lot of times because, you know, 14-year-old girls are tough. Right. But this conversation, I just pull over and I go, hey, knock it off. Don't roll your eyes at me. I'm in love with you. This is the way it is. Okay. And I break it down. I even do it when her friends are there and she gets upset. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. You know, I've known these girls since they were born.
Right.
You have kids as late as I do in life. You don't just love your kids. You love all kids. Because I thought I was going to miss it. You know, you lose 2 decades to drug addiction, and you know, you have kids when you didn't think that was part of your story, and now all of a sudden you look at things completely different. Right. Absolutely. We're out of time, and you know, just to put a bow on it, okay, as you know, the chemicals come from to make fentanyl come from China.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. So it's essentially terrorism.
Yep. It is.
Okay? And then it goes to Latin American countries, typically Mexico, and you have this guy in a goddamn hazmat suit, okay, with a big, huge rat, right? And they're throwing the shit in there, and with a stick, a wooden stick, they're doing this bullshit, and then they throw it in a mold, right? And you have to think chocolate chip cookie, right? Sometimes you take a bite of a chocolate chip cookie and you get all these chips. The chips are fentanyl, you're dead.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Sometimes you take a bite with no chips.
Right.
Right. So what do? You take another
bite.
That's right. Okay. Mm-hmm. And then it's Russian roulette all over again. Yeah. Okay. We're out of time.
Well, you know, Richard, and the other thing with that, again, I agree with you. I mean, 120% here. It's, I mean, this is what we do. You know, we work with DEA, we work with Homeland, we work with all these people. You know, that whole Trank situation, that's coming west, brother. Okay. And when it hits here, all hell is going to break loose.
What are you talking about? It's already here. It's already here.
It's I think, when did it start? It actually started in
Philly
Philadelphia.
was really
I think
bad.
Philadelphia was like the worst, kind of a deal. But
Still,
but here's what also scares the hell out of me. Okay, obviously the fentanyl with China and Mexico. I mean, it's obviously. But what really scares me as much as that is that 60, according to our sources at DEA, 60% of cocaine that's coming in now is laced with fentanyl. So you've got that, right? Okay, so you've got that kid or kids on a Saturday night. They're not addicts. They're just kids, like we said, with their frontal lobes haven't developed yet, right? And they're thinking they want to go do a couple bumps because they're going to go to a party, right? Just to go out and dance a little bit. And all of a sudden, bam, they never come home again.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
We saw the West Point kids.
right.
The
The kids that went to West Point, they were vacationing in Florida or something, and there's like 7 of them, and all of them, boom, dead.
you remember when the Chiefs were playing in the playoffs? I think
I do.
the AFC Championship game, and there was all that snow, and these kids were all smoking pot. These
Yes.
4 kids, and they were found face down in the snow the next day.
Yes.
Okay? That's in pot now.
Oh yeah, and in fact, we did a podcast with a lady back on the East Coast who she kind of runs a nonprofit now, but her son was 45 years old. He wasn't an addict of any kind, but he smoked pot, right? He actually thought he was buying a joint from a buddy who got it from a dispensary.
That's what he was told.
That's what he was told, right? Well, what they're doing is they are spraying the fentanyl on the outside of the joint. So it's on the paper. That's how it gets in the system, because I think that might be a little fallacy, because people were saying, well, they're putting it in marijuana. Well, if you put it on that leaf and you light it, it may burn away. I don't know. I'm not a chemist, but that's how this young man ingested it and dead. Yeah. So again, to your point, you're right. It's in pot. It's in everything right now.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.
So there's a guy, and I don't know his name, but he's Alexandra's father. His daughter was 17 years old and precious, just an angel. And she died. And he's been trying to get Alexandra's law passed. And all it is a traffic ticket, really, to dealers. And what it says is, hey, look, this is your one get out of jail free card. The next time you're caught dealing fentanyl, you're finished.
Right.
Essentially what it is. It's just to hold fentanyl dealers accountable, but it's not getting passed in California.
Correct.
And I'm an independent. Okay.
Right.
I'm not a Democrat or a Republican. I'm the adult in the room, in the middle. And what the legislature is doing, and the reason they will not approve that, is because they're conflating 2 issues. See, remember back in the day where they said black and brown people are smoking crack, but white people are snorting it, and it's different, and you're being discriminatory? Well, that was true.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But now they're taking that a step farther, and they're saying, okay, but black and brown people are dealing it more, but they're also using it more. And because they're using it more, okay, it's discriminatory. Now, think about that for a second. Does a black or brown mother give a shit who sold her kid the fentanyl when they
Nope.
died, what
Nope.
color they are?
Nope.
Of course not. I'm running a PSA that I've been running maybe almost a year now up in Sacramento, trying to shame these people, where I flew people in from Northern California. They came in from Southern California, mothers and fathers, and we did a PSA on fentanyl. And one of the women, God bless her soul, said, what about my black and what about my black and what about our black and brown children? Who's protecting them?
Mm-hmm.
And it was very powerful. Now it's been running for a year up in Sacramento. Nobody gives a shit.
Right.
These people feel no shame on
Right.
either side.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not like when we were kids where we actually thought our elected officials gave a shit about us.
Right.
That's over.
Right.
Okay. And, if you can't get your own government to protect our children from people who are knowingly selling fentanyl, well, where the are we?
Right.
Yeah.
So let me tell you this. I have presented before the Public Health and Safety Committee on numerous occasions. I go out, we have an assemblyman here named Jim Patterson, who is Republican. And again, I'm going to bring up Republican Democrat here for a second.
Well, that's okay. The Republicans are right, are better on this issue by miles.
Correct. And so look, just a couple of things. One is I worked with Jim on getting a bill passed up there again on increasing the jail sentences.
Can I interrupt you for 1 second
Sure,
before I
sure.
forget? Because I
Sure.
want to be part of the solution.
Sure.
Okay. There is a DA, someone running for district attorney here in Los Angeles. His name is Nathan Hochman. Okay. Nathan is an independent.
Okay.
Okay. He's been a moderate Republican in his past. Okay. He is not a MAGA Republican. He is not a liberal. He's a middle of the road guy.
Okay.
Right in the middle. Okay. He's had it.
Mm.
He's had it. Now he's leading a guy by the name of George Gascon. Okay. Who is the worst district attorney
Yes.
ever.
Yes.
Okay? The next time he gives a shit about anybody will be the first.
Correct.
Yeah.
Okay? And Nathan's had it. The smash and grabs, done. The encampments, finished. The fentanyl dealers, goodbye. Okay. He's had it. So if we want to be part of the solution, I've known this man for a couple decades now. Okay. He was one of my lawyers and I count him as a friend. Okay. And we've been talking for the last 3 years about the fentanyl crisis, right? He calls me every quarter, whether he needs to or not. And we talk about it. We just have a discussion about it. And I got to tell you, to have a guy who actually will do the right thing is so rare today that if if your listeners are in LA County and they actually give a shit about making our place a better place to live in the 5th richest economy on the face of the earth, by the way.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
This is, I grew up thinking in a sports background, right? I've always played football. And I was always taught that you're only as strong as your weakest link.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. In the 5th largest economy in the world, to have people in encampments living on sidewalks is
Disgusting.
It's disgusting.
It's shameful.
Shameful.
It's downright shameful. There's no excuse for it.
No excuse, especially when we're giving all this money, okay, to the rest of the world.
Yep.
And can't take care of people living on sidewalks in Los Angeles.
Right.
And shut up.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But here's the issue. Okay. So we worked on this bill and it was increasing jail time, prison sentences for drug dealers.
Mm-hmm.
And of course it did not pass.
Right.
And I was there And we had assembly people there as we were presenting, asking questions like the one assemblyman from Santa Monica. Right. I can never remember the damn guy's name.
All right? I don't know that it's worth remembering.
Right, but he literally speaks and says, "I just can't believe that every drug dealer is lacing every pill with fentanyl." And I wanted to go. Of course, I didn't want to be thrown in jail either. But I wanted to say, "Are you living on the moon?" You know, I mean, I don't understand these people. And then another assemblywoman, I think her last name was Bonta.
It wasn't enough that only 7 out of 10 pills, right?
Yeah.
It had to be every single one.
Yeah, right.
That's Santa Monica, by the way. That's
exactly.
And I live in Santa Monica.
Right.
I'm talking to you from Santa
Monica. Right. And Assemblywoman Bonta looked at a lady that was talking about her child that passed. And Assemblywoman Bonta looked at this lady and said, "You know, we really do grieve with you. But is it really going to do any good to put that person in prison now?"
Yes.
Right? Yes, it is. Okay, you dumbass. Okay, exactly. But here's the point to my story here. So that bill doesn't pass. We've worked our ass off since 2018, okay, to try to get something passed up there, right? And of course, nothing works. Assemblywoman Soria?
Yeah, Esmeralda Soria here in the Central Valley.
In the Central Valley. She's a Democrat. She takes the exact same language from that bill, exact same language, because there was a time, I guess there's a time frame when you can represent the bill. As a Democrat, she represents it, Jim Patterson's words exactly on that bill, and it passed. Good, right. But the point, let's not miss the point. The point is they would not let it pass because Jim was a Republican. Okay,
but the minute I get it, and you're right about that. But check this out. I don't give a how.
Of course,
how the cat gets skinned. Okay, you know, it's got to be done, and so. But that's good. That's great news because
it is.
Because that means they're not idiots. They're just politicians. Okay. And I can live with that. I can live with that. In a perfect world, it doesn't matter who brings up the bill. If it's effective, it gets passed. But listen, I'll take it.
Of course we'll take it. But again, the way my mind thinks is, again, I don't give a shit if you're Republican or Democrat, because this isn't a bipartisan issue.
That's right.
This is a human being issue.
This is the number one killer in our country.
This is a life and death issue.
Oh my God. It's going to get so much worse, man.
It is. It is.
So much worse.
Right. So again, now, because my mind goes to, okay, it took her to do it. Great. Okay. But what about the people that died in between that? And I know that's kind of, you know, stupid thinking a little bit, but not really, because there were drug dealers that sold it during that time that killed a whole shitload of people, you know? So again, it's a time thing. I just don't, like you, I don't understand the wasted time in all of this. This is we all three know it's the number one killer in America today. Okay. Why isn't everybody just irate about it and pissed off like I am?
And worse than that. Okay. If you look at these elected leaders that are making these decisions, a lot of them have children. Most of them have children.
They do.
Okay? And they still don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I came back, because I felt like I've got young children. And I felt like if I didn't do this and come back, I was going to be punished.
Right.
Now, I know I don't have a punishing God.
Right.
But I am so in love with my children that, you know, I just didn't want to risk it. You know what I mean?
I do.
And so you just do your part, and, you know, but I don't feel good about it. I don't feel good about doing my part. I feel like a goddamn pussy doing my part. Okay. You know, I want to fix it. And, you know, this thing can be fixed. This thing can be fixed. And the fact that people lack the intestinal fortitude to do anything about this with the heart of a servant
Right.
is just beyond me. Do you ever think about what we'd be if we didn't donkey off 2 decades to drug addiction? Maybe
Mhm.
it's us, maybe it's us sitting there, right? Making the right decision,
Maybe.
you know?
Maybe.
And you know we're all gifted. Drug
Yeah.
addiction, it's this is the only area that I know of where you can find a dumpster diver, right? Who's just almost wet brain. You get him well, and he's the goddamn district attorney. Now, I'm not saying that's Nathan. That ain't Nathan. Nathan's probably never used a drug in his life. Okay. But
You're
I
right.
I remember a story like that, and I can't put my finger on it, that someone became a DA after dumpster diving. And that's us. I've got somebody
Right.
who didn't speak in a treatment center, didn't speak, was raped repeatedly from 14 to 18. She was so damaged, she came to my place, wouldn't speak for 30 days. I walk into a clinical meeting, and some guy that I didn't hire, some therapist now, is holding court, and he's saying she needs a higher level of care. And I'm like, walked in and I said, is there anybody else who feels that way? And nobody said a word. And I looked at this guy and I said, man, go get your final check, please. You know what you're talking about. This isn't schizophrenia.
Right.
Okay. This is trauma.
Trauma.
This is what we do. She spoke the next day. Do you know what she does today?
Hmm.
She's a nurse practitioner going to medical school to become a doctor.
That's great. That's
She
just
had
great.
2 twins, Mason and Tate. This kid is the joy of my life. She comes out here once a year just to see me with the kids.
Great.
We're a talented people. We just
So,
are.
Richard, I love when you say that.
Get me a little choked up there.
Yeah, yeah. When you say that, it's there are so many people out there. And again, I'm not blowing my own horn or your horn or anybody else's, because it's
I
called for.
certainly don't want you to blow my horn.
Well, I'm going a little bit here. Okay.
Thank you. Thanks for the offer. That was very
no,
nice.
no problem. That's hilarious. But there's nothing better than when that happens to us. When some kid walks in here, 7 years later or 5 years later, or even 10 years later, because the first time I looked at that kid when he walked through my door, I'm thinking to myself, God, what the hell am I going to do with this kid? And then all of a sudden, 10 years later, he walks in and he's got kids of his own, right? And he's employed, and he's just, that thank you is worth, it's more than its weight in gold. It is. It just is. I can't explain it. That's why we do what we do, man. I mean, that's why we do what we do.
It's weird. Just a separate aside, you just made me think of it. When I owned Cliffside the last time, I had it for 15 years. I founded it. And by the end, certainly the last couple years, I couldn't be sick. Like, I didn't have the luxury of being sick, because not only was I running a treatment center, right? But for about 2 hours a day, I had treated so many people that for about 2 hours a day, I had parents and former patients call me, and, on their birthdays.
Sure.
Like, I just want you to know my kid's got, 6 years today, and he's doing these great things and everything. And, it's because of you. And, you always say, no, 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 no.
Right.
We provided a safe space for him with loving souls, and he did the work.
Correct.
Okay. We helped him do it. Okay. But he did it.
Right.
And, you had to have these conversations over and over again for 2 hours. By the time I had left, maybe I spend an hour a week in my last year doing that because
Mm.
I'm not around. Some people can't
Mhm.
reach me, whatever, right?
Sure.
And, you know, it always embarrassed me.
Hmm.
But,
I get it.
you spend 5 years like a Malibu housewife not doing anything in purgatory because you sell something and you're not allowed to compete for 5 years. You lose, you atrophy, you lose your purpose. And, you got to work.
Right.
And I don't know anything else but helping
Right.
people.
Right.
I've never worked for anybody. I wouldn't even hire me. Right? I mean, you guys know what that's like. It doesn't matter how
Yeah.
talented you are. If you're a
Right.
pain in the ass, you ain't.
You're a pain in the ass.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay. So, anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it.
I love it. I
Yeah.
absolutely love it.
Well, and I think that's the amazing thing that that we'll talk. And if I talking with people at a recovery meeting or whatever it is, or that reach out, is that when you finally get all this space cleared up and you start to, first and foremost, understand what your values are. And then from there, you start to develop that sense of purpose. And the more it happens, and you start being just so living gratitude that, wow, I'm in the right place. It's like you just embrace that gift of life,
Mhm.
because we don't know when that last piece of sand drops in the hourglass. And I think that's the amazing thing, that we just want these individuals that come through these doors and out there to understand that you have it in you too. Like your fingerprints, those are the only fingerprints that are ever going to exist like that. So
Mhm.
let's give it a chance. Like, let's see what you can become. And it's
You
such a
know what our
beautiful
problem
thing
is?
to see.
Do you know what our problem is as our population is considered our people,
Right. Our people.
our people.
Right.
Okay. The problem is a joy of living.
Mm.
That's really what it is. And unless you replace what you hold most valuable, which is your medicine, your drugs and your alcohol,
Sure.
okay? Unless you replace that with something as of equal
Yep.
or greater value, you can't stay sober. Why the
Correct.
f
You can't.
would you?
Why would
Okay.
you? Right. Right.
That's right. And you don't hear that from people, but that's just the way it is. And for me, it was at first opening a treatment center. Now, that was a total mistake. I wanted a sober living, a men's sober living. I didn't go to rehab. I went to a men's sober living. I went to AA. I did my therapy. And so when I got sober at 11 months, I bought this house, this big house, and it was just too big for me. It scared the out of me. You
Right.
know, I came from a little condo, tiny 1,400 square feet. Now I'm in this 5,500 square foot home, and I'm like in the middle of nowhere in Malibu. And I'm like, okay, this was a bad idea in the middle of a bad idea. But then I remembered, okay, that I've always wanted to start a sober living. And so I started it and I started giving out therapy. And the state came to see me and they're like, dude, you're operating illegally. What are you talking about? I do sober living here. Yeah, but you're doing therapy.
Right.
Yeah, because that's what they need. And, I give more than I promise. And they're like, no, no, dude, that's called treatment.
Right.
Okay. So I got my license and I did treatment. Um, it was a mistake
I
the
get it.
way I started out.
I get
And
it.
it was the best thing really that I've ever done. It was just an accident.
Hmm.
And it grew from like 6 beds to 83 beds.
Right.
And when we sold, I didn't want to sell. I didn't go to market. They just kept coming back and back and back and back. And I never had anything. I didn't have money saved.
Right.
Every time I made money, I bought another house so I could treat more people. So I didn't have anything. And I was tired, man. I was washed. I needed
Right.
these 5 years, you know. But honestly, the first thing was my treatment center, and that kept me straight because you can't be of service and be a loadie at the same time. It's
True.
just doesn't work that way. And the second thing that I held most valuable is when I had children. That completely changed me, right?
Yeah.
It's no longer acceptable to own a treatment center and have a daughter and smoke crack cocaine with a room full of hookers. It's not congruent. It doesn't work, right? So, it, and then it gets into self-care, right? People come to us and, when was the last time they got a physical or got their blood drawn
Sure.
or got their eyes checked or got their
Teeth.
teeth, right? It's like, they walk in completely broken, not just mentally, but physically, right?
Yep.
And so you start doing self-care. And what happens is once you do that, it tells you you're worth it.
Mhm.
You're worth it. You're worth caring for yourself. And I believe that self-care leads to self-esteem, which leads to self-love. And if you really think about it, if you go back in your database and you think about it from the beginning of time, let me know if you've ever met somebody who truly loved themselves trying to kill themselves with drugs and alcohol, because I never have.
No.
And that was my big breakthrough in the 5 years that I was gone. And that's what I did by creating Carrara. Now, I just want to say one thing, just so that everybody doesn't think I'm an elitist prick with this cigar. Okay. Right. Because I gave up sugar, I gave up girls, I gave up drugs and alcohol. Right. This is what I got left, and this is what I'm doing.
I get it, Richard.
Right.
I get it.
But I bought a place called One Method Center, and we're going to be in network with everybody soon. Okay.
Right.
We sent out these things almost a year ago, and we're getting a few of them in now.
Okay.
My buddy called me crying, and he couldn't make payroll, and payroll was in 36 hours. And you guys know what happens when a treatment center goes out of business. You got all your clients sitting there, and the staff isn't getting paid, and they start wheeling the TVs and the couches and the furniture out of the house, right? And you leave these people just sitting there, and they're never going to treatment again. They're never, because they can't trust the process, right? And so I went and I bought it, and I hired a CEO named Candy Andersen, who knows how to scale thousands of beds. And that's what we're doing with One Method. We're going to be scaling thousands of beds to treat the military and the homeless. And we're going to have a 25-person pilot program where we follow these homeless people around for a year. And then we're going to present the data to the city, the state, and the federal government.
Nice.
And we're going to say, clearly this works. I did this on my dime. Now we've got to do this across the country. Okay, this is the model. And here's the problem with it. We don't get $180 a day. That doesn't work. Okay, I'm not talking about a fortune. I'm talking about the average in-network payment from an insurance company, which is about $1,000 a day, which, by the way, you'll make about a 10 to 12% return on that money. Okay.
Right.
There is no way, zero chance, that you can ever give people the treatment they need for less than that.
Right.
It has to be incentivized with private business. It cannot be something like this. Okay, because now it's just a bunch of politicians thinking they're doing something and feeling good about something when they haven't done dick. And that is reality. Sorry, hate to be the bearer of bad news.
No, you're
but
right.
I've done this a while, and I don't know much about anything, but about this area, I know pretty much about everything. And if I don't know an answer to something, I know where to get it.
Right.
Okay. That is the model. And you have to think about kibbutz, merged with Habitat for Humanity, and you teach people to fish. And a lot of these people can't do a lot of stuff. Maybe they can only do an orientation when people come in. Maybe they can just go with the therapists out back to the encampments where they were and say, hey, it's better over here. If it wasn't better over here, I'd be back here with you, right? Come on, come with me. We'll show you the way. We'll give you back your misery in 30 days if you don't like it.
Right.
Okay. I mean, that's the kind of thing that I envision, and that's my dream. And, we always have at least 3 or 4 wounded warriors with us at all times for free. We don't have a contract, and we won't have it for at least another year because those take forever to get.
Yep.
And, I just told the guy that, is a big shot over there. I said, all heroes come to me, man, all of them. And, he can't send them all because he sends them everywhere. Right. But, I want him to send whatever he can to us. I don't care if it's 6 people at a time and we dedicate one whole house to them. Okay. It's my pleasure to do it.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. You said something in the beginning of the conversation that I want to respond to about those of us, in recovery or trying to get clean, that you have to do it for yourself. I found this, at least in my recovery. I got clean at 45, so I was kind of an older guy and had a family, and I had teenagers at the time, and but I always found, and this is something I try to pass on to people, is that sure, we have to do it for ourselves, but also you have to include in there, at least in mind, that if you do it for others, meaning your family, your kids, your wife, your significant other, whoever it is, that has a tendency to heal the heart even faster, in my opinion. Because it's like you said, you didn't have children then. You had children late. See, my kids went through the storm, okay, of all those years, and it took 4 or 5 years to rebuild that relationship, and to have my oldest son working with me in treatment now is like a miracle, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's I've always found that I try to pass that little tidbit along too. If you can do it for a spouse and kids and parents and grandparents and whoever it is, but you have to do it for yourself. But those people are important. I can never forget the important people, friends that hung in there with me, that tried and tried and tried, and even those that left me, they just wanted me back, is all it was, right? I mean, just a little food for thought on that one.
Do it to be a good, responsible citizen and help the people that you never meet.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, fuck,
That-
understand you're part of something greater than you've already than you're giving any sort of credit. You never know. This podcast, I do another one, and all these things that we don't know where this is going to land.
Right.
But this conversation might end up in front of the right mom or dad or whatever that go, wow, did my son, daughter, whatever needs help, and they go get help, and they never let us know whatsoever.
Right.
Doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter
one
No,
bit.
one bit.
It matters they got the help. Doesn't matter that I don't need a thank you.
Right.
I mean, I love
Right,
this
right.
gentleman sitting next to me. I'm blessed. Like, hey, life
Thank
is
you.
good, man.
It is.
I was taught by my sponsor, who's no longer with us, who I loved more than anything in this world, that you leave this place better than you found it.
You bet.
That's it. You leave this place better than you found it.
Yeah.
We've had histories where we were so inconsiderate and so narcissistic and really just so f***ing sick, and we felt like pieces of shit, right? And just like you made a living amends to your children by being the man you are today, I feel, and my sponsor felt, that we traumatized the f***ing world.
Oh God, yeah. Oh God, yes.
Right? And so we need to make a living amends. And the way we do that to the world is we just leave it better than we found it.
Absolutely.
I had a sponsor once. I had him for a couple days. He had Parkinson's. His name was Milton Dicus. And Milton was fantastic. And he would sit there and he'd shake, I remember, and he'd try to get his yogurt into his mouth. And he says, all I want you to do is two things. Help whoever you can and not harm anybody. Do you think you can do that? And I looked at him straight in the face. I said, no. And he goes, why? I said, well, I can help whoever I can, but I can't make any promises about not harming it. And he goes, we'll start there. And as we finished our ice cream, which took, I don't know, 30 minutes, he was drinking it by the time he was able to get it in to his mouth. I looked at him, this sweet soul, and I looked at him and I said, you know what, man, I'm going to give you a break. He goes, what do you mean? I said, if you sponsor me, I'm going to kill you. I mean, I'm just too much trouble. Okay. It's like, you're such a sweet soul. So I'm going to move on. Give me a hug and a kiss. Just left him there. Right. Probably added 2-3 years to his life.
That's great. That is great. I love that.
Leave it better than you found it.
You bet.
Mr. Andersen, anything else?
Richard, this time has flown by, man. I mean, I thank you. Just thank you. That was not only wonderful conversation, but just insightful. And I'm so glad to have met you. And God, I'd love to stay in touch. I mean, we're in Fresno. We're not that far away, man. I mean, I try to get down to LA at least once every 2 months or so, but
you might as well be in Kentucky.
Yeah, right. Exactly. But hey, I hope we can do this again, my friend. I really do. This is good.
It's my pleasure, guys.
If you or a loved one is struggling with addiction, please call PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, at 559-579-1551, or visit us online at painnonprofit.org. Follow us on social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at Pain Nonprofit. And please subscribe to the Don't Hide the Scars podcast and share with others wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube. And if you would like to donate to PAIN, Parents and Addicts in Need, please click the link in the description to make your tax-deductible donation today and help us save more lives gripped by addiction.